at the J.P. Morgan Healthcare Conference in San Francisco, and joining me in the studio this afternoon is Spiro Rombotis from Cyclacel Pharmaceuticals. Spiro, good to have you here.
Thank you.
So I understand you have a product in phase 3 clinical trial that's showing a lot of promise for leukemia. Can you tell us about what product you're bringing to market?
I won't bring it to market yet, but it's called sapecitabine. It's in clinical trials, as you said, in the last stage of trials, phase 3, and we expect the results to be unblinded within the next 6 months.
And this product is going to be indicated for?
Acute myeloid leukemia is one of the more deadly, more fatal forms of leukemia, and unfortunately an indication that has had no innovation in 46 years. So nearly half a century with no drugs reaching the market in the United States for this type of leukemia called AML, acute myeloid leukemia.
So not a lot of products, not a lot of research has been done, nothing new to the market. What's innovative about your product?
Quite a lot of research has been done. Unfortunately, more than a dozen trials have failed in this indication. We don't know why. We believe or speculate that one of the reasons, of the many reasons why all these trials have failed, is that there's a wrong strategy. The original approval of the drugs used today, which are 46 years old, is based on the idea of high-intensity therapy. The more aggressively we treat these patients with leukemia, the more likely they are to respond. Recent data over the last half a decade or so show that this is not necessarily correct. In fact, the more intensively we treat, the less of the patients survive, possibly because we destroy much of the immune system and they succumb to an infection, even if we have beaten the leukemia for the moment. So for this reason, Cyclacel chose to develop our drug, sapecitabine, using a low-intensity strategy. So what is new about this approach is that we're going against the medical treatment paradigm. Instead of giving more drug, we believe that more is less. We're giving less. The goal is to keep these mostly elderly people alive as long as possible, even when we haven't destroyed every leukemia cell in their bone marrow.
So low-intensity treatment, kind of going against the grain here. So what is the course of therapy? I mean, how long is a patient on therapy for your product?
That's one of the great innovations of this approach. We do not put any restrictions. As you correctly anticipate in your question, oftentimes in cancer trials we put a limit on how many months a patient can stay on study. The typical survival in acute myeloid leukemia is about 3.5 months if the patient goes in hospice and will most likely die there, or up to 6 months in investigational trials of unapproved drugs for this indication. In our phase 2 study, published in a reputable peer-reviewed journal, we showed the median survival of 9 months, with the corresponding number of cycles, each cycle being about a month, of 9, which again suggests that if you can keep patients alive for a long time, this may be a superior strategy for this disease setting with very high quality of life. And the third feature of this drug that we're very excited about is oral availability. Everything available in the leukemia setting is given by intravenous injection. So all AML drugs have an injection for 1 hour, an infusion setting in a specialist center. The patient has to wait for a few hours in case they have side effects, and somebody must drive them home and back. Doing this 5 times a week becomes a full-time job. With our drug, they can stay at home, they can capsule by mouth at mealtime and be compliant with therapy.
So no more infusion therapy. Caregivers are freed up. Patients are in-home. Fantastic technology.
Well, we think so. And again, we have had early doubt converted into belief as we convinced 110 hospitals in the US and Western Europe to participate in our phase 3 program. It's one of the largest studies ever done in AML in history, about 500 patients. Of these hospitals, the vast majority came in the last 2 years of the trial. It's a 3-year study which finished enrollment in December of 2014. So we're sitting here in a disease that kills everybody within 3 to 6 months, a year after the last patient went on treatment, and we still don't have the full results. So we are excited about what's about to happen over the period of the next 6 months as data becomes available to analyze.
So Spiro, what's on the horizon for Cyclacel? I know you're working on some other therapies. Give us a little hint about what other products you have that you're working on.
The next class of products we're working on are called CDK inhibitors, cyclin-dependent kinase inhibitors. This is a class of drugs that has a Nobel Prize behind them, back in 2001, in fact. It took, however, 14 years for the first member of this class to reach the market from a large pharma company for a type of breast cancer earlier in 2015. So Cyclacel's early investment in this area is now bearing fruit because this is now a class which is validated. We have 2 CDK inhibitors in the clinic, one in phase 2, one in phase 1, but they address a novel aspect of this mechanism which we call transcription, which is essentially the ability of the drug to slow down the cancer cell's propagation of mistakes in its DNA to the next generation of cells, like photocopying, if you want, with an error being in the manuscript. We're able, therefore, to hopefully reverse the ability of the cancer cell to become, over time, resistant to therapy and ultimately immortal, which ultimately results in the patient's death. So the whole strategy of CDK inhibition is to reverse the resistance examples that cancer cells undergo and make the patient more likely to respond.
Now, Spiro, I know that the FDA, especially in oncology, is fast-tracking a lot of products, getting those new products to market sooner, saving patients' lives. Have you been able to take advantage of some of the fast-track methods of the FDA?
Yes, we have. We have agreed with the FDA what is called a Special Protocol Assessment Agreement, or SPA. A SPA is a contract between the company and the regulator in the United States that if the trial meets the pre-agreed endpoints, then they will consider it for approval, and therefore potentially waive the two-trial requirement, which is part of the pharmaceutical law, the Food and Drug Act. So the FDA clearly thinks that this is an important potential advance to give us that opportunity, but we have to, of course, meet the pre-specified endpoints that are captured in the contract.
Well, Spiro, I really appreciate you stopping by. You're doing very important work, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.